Canada's economy is growing. At least that's what the numbers say. GDP is up, the population is rising, employment still exists. From the outside, it looks like motion, like activity, like progress. And yet, year after year, life feels heavier. Wages don't seem to catch up. Rent eats more of every paycheck. Saving feels harder, not easier. Even people doing everything right feel stuck. That's the uncomfortable contradiction this video is about. Because if the economy is growing, if more money is moving, and if more people are working, why does life feel tighter every single year? This video is not about housing prices. It's not about whether things are expensive or affordable. It's about something deeper and far more misleading: how an economy can grow without actually getting better, and why that kind of growth slowly makes people poorer without ever looking like a crisis. By the end of this video, you won't just understand what's happening. You'll understand how growth itself became the illusion. To understand what's happening, we need to separate two ideas people treat as the same thing: growth and progress. Growth simply means the total gets bigger, more output, more activity, a larger number at the top. Progress means something very different. It means individual lives actually improve. More room to breathe, more options, more forward motion that people can feel. Those two things often move together, but they don't have to. Here's the simplest way to see the difference. Imagine a long table with 10 people sitting at it. There's enough food and everyone eats. The system works. Now add 10 more people to the table, but don't add more food. The table is bigger. There are more people eating. There's more movement, but each person gets less. No one is starving. Nothing has collapsed, but no one feels better either. That's growth without progress. And the danger is subtle, because from a distance, the room looks more active than ever. More voices, more motion, more economic activity. But comfort didn't increase. Opportunity didn't expand. The experience of each person quietly degraded. This is the mistake Canada made. The economy didn't stop working. It didn't break. It didn't fail dramatically. It expanded in a way that made the total look healthier, while making individual lives feel tighter. And once you confuse growth with progress, you can celebrate movement, while missing the fact that nothing is actually improving. If this distinction already changed how you see the story, this channel focuses on helping you see systems clearly, before they become normal parts of everyday life. Subscribe if you want to understand how these systems work and how much of your life you are willing to organize around them. Because Canada didn't just grow, it grew in a very specific way. On paper, this kind of growth looks clean. More people arrive, more workers enter the system, more consumers spend money. GDP goes up, headlines stay optimistic, the economy looks busy. But here's what didn't change at the same speed. Housing didn't expand fast enough, infrastructure didn't expand fast enough, and productivity didn't expand at all. So the system didn't break, it stretched. More people were added to the same number of homes, at the same transit lines, at the same job ladders. Nothing exploded, nothing failed publicly. But pressure started building everywhere people couldn't see. Rents didn't rise because people suddenly wanted luxury. They rose because more people were chasing the same space. Wages didn't stall because people stopped working. They stalled because the supply of labor grew faster than leverage. Jobs still existed, but competition quietly intensified. From the outside, the economy looked alive. Inside it, people started adjusting. They took roommates instead of upgrades. They delayed moves. They accepted good enough instead of better. This is how growth can feel productive. While quietly reducing individual progress, the total number gets bigger, but the experience of each person gets thinner. The economy got larger, the slice got smaller, and that shrinking slice didn't show up evenly. Some people felt insulated, others felt every increase immediately. Because here's the part that matters most. This pressure didn't spread evenly. Up to this point, the system still looks neutral. Growth happened, pressure increased, everyone adjusted. But here's where the story quietly splits. Because not everyone absorbs that pressure the same way. If you already own assets, rising costs don't feel like danger. They feel like insulation. When prices rise, your home rises with them. When rent climbs, it climbs for someone else. When inflation spreads, your assets absorb part of the shock. Your life gets more expensive, but your balance sheet grows alongside it. The system bends, but it bends for you. Now look at the other side. If you don't own assets, every increase lands directly on your income. Rent rises first, then groceries, and then transportation. There's no buffer, no equity, no place to redirect the pressure except into your own life. Same city, same job market, same economy, completely different experience. Two people can earn similar salaries, work similar hours, live under the same headlines, and feel like they're living in different countries. For one, growth feels abstract but manageable. For the other, growth feels personal and exhausting. This is the quiet trick of the system. Growth didn't fail, it was absorbed. Absorbed by assets, absorbed by balance sheets, absorbed by people who already had room to absorb it. Everyone else didn't break, they compressed. Smaller apartments, longer commutes, delayed plans. Not because they made worse choices, but because the entry price kept moving. And here's the part that rarely gets discussed. When pressure concentrates this way, behavior starts to change everywhere, not just for households. Because once pressure is absorbed unevenly, businesses start adapting to it too. Once pressure is absorbed unevenly, business behavior begins to shift. Quietly, rationally, predictably. This is the part most explanations skip because it doesn't look dramatic. It looks sensible. In a healthy system, productivity growth comes from necessity. You invest in better tools because labor is scarce. You automate because wages rise. You innovate because standing still is expensive. But when growth comes from adding more people instead of building better systems, that pressure disappears. Labor becomes abundant. Competition for jobs intensifies. Wages stop rising, not because companies are cruel, but because they no longer have to bid for talent. And once that happens, a different question starts guiding decisions. Not how do we build better machines, but why would we? Why spend millions automating a process when cheaper labor keeps it running? Why take risks on new systems when survival doesn't require it? Why expand capacity when demand exists but margins are thin and uncertain? So businesses adapt. They don't collapse. They don't innovate aggressively either. They optimize. They squeeze more hours out of existing staff. They delay upgrades. They choose incremental efficiency over transformation. From the outside, this still looks like an economy working. People are employed. Offices are open. Services exist. But the engine underneath stops upgrading. The system learns how to survive, not how to improve. And this is where growth becomes deceptive, because GDP can still rise while productivity quietly stalls. More activity doesn't mean better output. More people working doesn't mean more value created. It just means more effort is required to maintain the same results. This is why careers start to feel flat, not failing, not advancing either. You work harder, you gain experience, but promotions slow, raises shrink, mobility narrows. The ladder is still there, but the rungs are farther apart. And no one announces this shift. There's no memo that says, we're no longer a growth economy. It just becomes harder to move forward. Companies stop building for expansion. They build for resilience. They don't ask, how do we win the future? They ask, how do we avoid losing this quarter? And when enough businesses think this way, the entire economy changes character. It becomes busy, loud, full, but strangely stagnant. This is the hidden cost of growth without progress. The system didn't break. It adapted it in a way that quietly trades long-term momentum for short-term stability. And that adaptation doesn't show up in headlines. It shows up in how people feel at work, in how careers slow down, in how ambition becomes cautious. And this leads to a final consequence most people don't connect yet. Because when growth no longer creates progress, it doesn't just change companies, it reshapes lives. When an economy learns how to survive without improving, people learn how to live smaller. When growth no longer creates progress, its cost doesn't arrive all at once. There's no crash, no sirens, no moment where everything suddenly breaks. Instead, it shows up quietly inside everyday decisions. When more income goes toward basic survival, less is left for everything else. Not dramatically, selectively, People don't stop spending. They narrow it. Upgrades become repairs. Investments become subscriptions. Long-term plans become short-term coping. From the outside, the economy still looks active. Money is moving. People are working. Life continues. But something subtle changes. Effort no longer feels like it leads anywhere new. You're not building towards something better. You're maintaining what you already have and hoping it doesn't slip away. This is where growth becomes heavy, not because it fails, but because it demands more energy for the same outcome. Careers begin to stall, not collapse. Stall. You do your job well, you gain experience, but the reward curve flattens. Advancement slows, mobility shrinks, opportunities feel conditional. I'll move when things stabilize. I'll take that risk later. I'll start that chapter when costs come down, and slowly later replaces someday. This is how ambition doesn't disappear, it contracts. People stop planning forward. They plan around constraints, not because they lack drive, but because the system punishes mistakes harder than it rewards progress. And over time, that reshapes an entire society. You get fewer startups, not because ideas vanished, but because failure became too expensive. You get fewer moves for opportunity, not because people don't want growth, but because relocation risks stability. You get fewer long-term bets because the future already feels mortgaged. This is the cost of growth without progress. The system keeps functioning, but it teaches caution. It trains people to protect what they have, instead of reaching for more. And the most important thing to understand is this: none of this requires bad intentions. No one wakes up trying to hollow out an economy. Businesses respond rationally. Households adapt logically. Institutions preserve stability. Each decision makes sense in isolation, but together they create a system that survives by getting smaller in spirit. The economy doesn't collapse. It learns how to live smaller. Less movement, less experimentation, less belief that tomorrow will be better. And that's why this kind of growth is the most dangerous kind. Because it looks successful, it sounds positive, it produces numbers that appear healthy, but it slowly disconnects effort from outcome. And once that connection breaks, an economy can keep expanding on paper, while quietly shrinking in lived experience. This is the illusion Canada walked into. Growth without progress, motion without improvement, activity without advancement. And the longer this illusion holds, the harder it becomes to remember what real progress is supposed to feel like. Once a system trains people not to expect improvement, the question is no longer, why does life feel harder? It becomes, who does this system still work for, and why? An economy can be busy, it can be loud, it can be expanding on every chart, and still be going nowhere. Growth and progress are not the same thing. Numbers can rise, while lived experience quietly shrinks. When effort no longer leads to improvement, people don't stop working. They stop expecting more. And that's the most convincing illusion an economy can create: movement without improvement. In the next video, we're going to look at who this system still works for, who absorbs the pressure instead, and how two very different experiences can exist inside the same country at the same time. If this helped you see the system more clearly, not louder, not angrier, just clearer, subscribe. Because once you understand how a system works, you get to decide how much of your life you're willing to organize around it. Thanks for watching.